And you'll see now I have my editable poly menu. So I'm going to go in here to polygon mode and grab this bottom polygon, and I'm going to go and get my bevel tool. So I'm going to not click on bevel, but I'm going to click on the settings box next to bevel. So click on the settings, and this gives me the open dialog box to be able to change these little sliders. So I'm going to change the slider like that, and maybe bring this kind of in a little bit. And this is the bottom part of my capsule. So kind of like that, and I'm going to go in here and hit the checkbox, and that's okay. I'm going to go to edge mode. I'm going to double click on that edge, and it selects the whole ring around my model. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to chamfer, click on the settings box for chamfer, and what this lets me do is I can actually chamfer this. I can tell it how many divisions I want to cut. So right now I'm going to use one division, and then I can also change how much they chamfer open. So I'm going to change this out a little bit so I have a little bit of a bevel edge to this, and this gives me the bell shape of my cone. And I'm going to go here and say check, and that's what I want. To come out of sub-object mode, so vertex, edge, border, face, or polygon rather, and element are all sub-object modes. To come out of those modes, just hit the 6 key, just the number 6 on your number row of your keyboard. Just hit that number and you'll come out of sub-object mode. So now that I've got this, I'm going to come here to my modifier. I'm still on my modify panel. I'm going to my modifier list. Go to this drop down, and I'm going to go in here and get camera map. I'm going to get the camera map, and this is a world space modifier. So camera map, WSM world space modifier. I'm going to click on that, and you'll see it ask me, okay, well, you need to pick the camera that you're going to use. Well, I'm going to go ahead and click on pick camera. I'm going to hit the H key on my keyboard, and this brings up my pick object. And I can probably tell you my pick object's not showing up because it's frozen. So I'm going to go here to my layers and unfreeze it. So right here I'm going to go to my layer manager. Let's open up this layer and let's unfreeze. So right here you'll see a little snowflake. Click on that and unfreeze your camera. Let's hit H again. So you can see now when I hit H for my pick object, my camera 1 does show up. I'm going to click on camera 1 and say pick. So now camera 1 is going to be my mapping camera. I'm going to select my object and hit Alt X so I don't see through it anymore. So I have my camera map modifier. I have my camera mapping on here. My modifier is on there. But the thing that isn't connected is a texture. You still have to have a texture connected to your model to be able to show some kind of image on it. So I'm going to fix that right now. I'm going to hit the M key and open up my material editor, and do not pay attention to these materials because we're going to delete these and we're going to make brand new materials. So we're going to do it. So I've got my material editor, my slate material editor opened up. I'm going to come over here and left mouse click and drag this standard shader into my graph area. And what I want to do at this point, on the left hand side are inputs, on the right hand side are outputs. So I want to left mouse click and drag this output actually right to my cone and drop it. Now this shader is the shader that is on my cone. So let's actually get a map onto this. I'm going to double click on my material number 49, and I'm going to rename this. Let's name this capsule. So you have to double click on your shader to get it to open up the properties in here. And when whatever shader you have selected, it'll have a dotted line around that shader. And you can move this wherever you want to. If you hit the little minus button, it'll collapse it down to a smaller version. So in here for this particular shader, I want to go to my maps section. So I'm going to click on maps. And I want to put a diffuse map on this. So I'm going to click on where it says none. I'm going to click that. And that opens up my material map browser, and I'm going to come here and say bitmap, and I'm going to go find my bitmap. So my bitmap is my JPEG that I have right here, and I'm going to say open. Now you'll say, well, you know, Dr. Media, this still doesn't show up in our viewport. Well, to make this actual shader show up in your viewport, you have to, for every shader that you have textures applied to, you have to come here to the little checker with the little light beside it and click on that. When you click on that, it will actually turn on this image to be visible in viewport. So right now, if you look at this, you're probably saying, well, it doesn't look any different. It looks like the same thing. Well, it is and it isn't. So what's happening now is you can't see it from this view because this is not my perspective camera that's in here. So this is my perspective and not my camera 01. But you can kind of see what's happening. So from camera 01, you can honestly see that my map is being projected onto that cone. So if I were to render this right now, if I click into this viewport right here, come to the teapot right here and say render, and when it renders, you can see what it renders out is actually my 3D object mapped with the texture onto it. Kinda freaking cool. So modeling inside of here takes on a different dimension, because what you're going to end up doing is if I come in here and go to polygon mode, I can grab this top polygon, and right now this all looks kind of jumbled up because if I click on my my camera map binding up at the very top, I can see what the camera map does. But if I jump down to sub objects, you'll see that my mapping goes crazy. To be able to see the finished result, you'll see right here there is this show end result toggle on off. I'm going to toggle on my end result. So by clicking this, it's actually showing the edit mode, but also the whole stack of my layer stack inside of here, or my modifier stack. So I'm just going to grab the top of this. I'm just going to drag this down a little bit, kind of be right about there. That's kind of where that ends at. And what I want to do, so I'm actually modeling right now. So to model this, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say that I want to do my bevel again, but I'm not going to give it any height. I'm just going to pull this back down to 0. You can also type in things. Type in 0, and I'm just going to give this a negative amount. And instead of hitting the check, I'm going to hit the plus, and the plus is going to let me actually do another bevel. So the second bevel, I'm going to pull it up right about here, and I'm going to bring in the size of this to something like that, and then bring up the height of it a little bit more, just like that. And I'm going to hit the check and say okay. I'm going to double click, go to edge mode rather, and I'm going to double click on this, so I have all that selected. Hit my scale tool. I'm just going to scale this in until I get this kind of matched up. Let's see, I think we are right about here where things are matching at, so right there. Let's go to polygon mode. So I can hit, you can also get to your different sub-object modes by using your number keys. The 1 key is vertex mode, 2 key is edge mode, 3 key is border mode. You can't get to a border unless you have an open edge on your model. And then 4 is polygon mode, and 5 is element mode, and then 6 is top level mode. So I'm going to hit 4 to go to polygon mode, grab my polygon right here, and kind of move this around and get this where I want it. When I'm done with this, I can come back and jump to the top level. I can click away from this. I can look at this and I can see, yep, it looks like it's mapping this the right way. I've kind of got what I need on this, which is awesome. So I'm going to make another piece in here. So let's actually zoom back out, go back to my create panel, and I'm going to make myself a box. Just going to drag out a box in here. And I'm going to make sure I don't make any more boxes, so I can hit the Q key so I don't make any more boxes. Grab my box. I'm going to hit W to get my translate tool. And I'm just going to pull this into my scene just like that. And I'm going to pull this up just like that. And I'm going to get my rotate tool and rotate this at the same angle. And rotate this way. Rotate a little bit like this. So I'm rotating it just like my door is sitting over there. And then let's pull this back to where my door kind of sits at. Let's say that it's going to be somewhere right in here. And I can see that I'm actually intersecting with real geometry because my actual real capsule is in there now. So it's not just intersecting with the picture, it's also intersecting with real geometry at this point. So I'm going to get my angle kind of the way that I want it. So something like that. That looks kind of good. And what I want to do is I want to scale this down. So get my scale tool and scale it down. Let's get my move tool. Let's move it a little bit. So it's kind of sitting right about here. There's my door, kind of. So let's just say this is going to be it right here. So I need to do some things to this. So remember, I can't move in my camera view, but I can move my perspective camera. So with my perspective camera, I'm going to right click on my model, go here to where it says convert to, and I'm going to choose editable poly again. I'm going to go to edge mode. I'm going to grab my 4 edges. Actually, I'm just going to grab the edges that are visible because that's all the ones that we need. So I'm going to grab those edges, and what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to chamfer these. So I'm going to chamfer them. So I click on the settings for chamfer, and now I can actually change the amount. So I can round these out. And I can add more divisions to this. So we can see something like right about there. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit the checkbox. That looks good. And let's go to vertex mode. Grab these vertices. And I'm going to move them in my camera view. So I'm going to move these down kind of like right about here. Let's hit Alt X so we can see through our mesh. So Alt X lets me see through it. So I'm going to select these guys. And those are good. So what I'm going to do is go to edge mode. And I'm going to left mouse drag through the edges through the center of this. And I'm going to come over here to edit edges and just say connect. And I can go to the connect settings. And what the connect settings let me do, which is really cool, once again, is actually let's make sure we didn't select another weird edge. Let's make sure we just get these edges like here. So I'm going to go to my connect settings. Click on that. There we go. And then you can put as many segments in here as you want. You can actually slide these. You can push them to each other and away from each other. I'm going to leave them right about here, just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, double click on that ring, and pull that ring a little bit this way. Double click on this ring and pull this ring a little bit this way. And then double click on this ring right here and pull this ring a little bit this way. So now I've got that curvature that I really needed with my piece. And I'm going to come in here and let's actually click this edge right here. Let's look at this in perspective and see what's going on. It looks okay. It looks like this could be rotated a little bit more. So I'm going to hit the 6 key to go back to top level mode, and I can get my rotate tool and I can actually rotate this. And I'm going to move this down a little bit, trying to catch that curve like right about there. So I'm getting this bottom curve right here and this top curve. Let's go back to vertex mode and let's just grab these vertices right here. And I'm being very careful how I move these. I'm just moving these up in Z, and then I'm going to move them back out in X, because I don't want to really screw up the perspective of where my 3D box is at. So I'm being very careful when I move these pieces in these views. So I can use my perspective view over here to kind of see as well. So I've got that mapped. That's sitting there. It's not mapped yet. I'm going to come back to top level mode. So you can also get the top level mode by clicking on editable poly. Just click on it one time and it'll go gray. When this is gray, you're at top level of your object. So I'm going to go here to my modifier list and go get my camera map right there. And I'm going to say pick camera. I'm going to hit the H key. So hit H and it brings up my pick object. I'm going to click on camera 01 and say pick. And I'm going to hit Alt X so I'm no longer see-through. And then we'll do the same thing. I'm going to hit M to go in here and get my material. And right now I could actually probably attach the same material to that object right there. And you can see that it does work. If you see right now, that object is sitting there and it mapped the door. It mapped the door onto this part of my object. So I need to do some kind of fine tuning to this. So I'm going to go to vertex mode. Make sure we turn on show end result. So now while I'm editing this in vertex mode, I can actually be seeing what I'm doing. So I'm going to pull this down a little bit. So this is all about getting the shapes that you need to catch the parts of your model that you're going to have in viewport. That's all this is about. That's realistic.